Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Some very serious situation here that was brought to our attention. Carolyn Hyde, who's also on our Facebook page here, shared with us, or shared on our on her page there that popped up on ours as well, an urgent prayer request. And this prayer request is for a dear friend of hers, Yariv Goldman. Yariv Goldman has a group, an organization there that helps the needy in Israel. It's called the Shepherd of Israel. And what they do is they help former Orthodox Jews that are at risk, youth here in Jerusalem. They help them in doing a merge over from their Orthodox life back into regular life there. And this is something that a mission that they do there inside of Israel, but their group has now come under the target of a very, very cruel organization. In fact, that organization is ran by Mr. Gopstein here, Benzion, who in this particular article in December 27th of 2015 was called "An Extremist Leader Calls for Banning Christmas and Christians in Israel." And of course, you know, we have been bringing a major spotlight in Israel about the 7 Noahide laws that they're pushing all over the world, and it's no different in Israel. In fact, we had shared with you guys not long ago how that the chief rabbi, the chief Sephardic rabbi of Israel, also calling for the 7 Noahide laws and for Gentiles that do not keep those 7 Noahide laws to leave. But we're not talking at this point about Jews, about Gentiles in Israel, but rather we're talking about Jewish believers like Carolyn Hyde and her husband there, who live in Israel. They've been here on Israeli News Live before. Wonderful testimony, Carolyn Hyde, and really a strong believer in Jesus Christ. And they're facing major threats from Mr. Gopstein's group there, and he runs a group called Leh Havah. All right, now, this is what it says here in the article here, or the post that she placed on Facebook. It says, "We truly believe the love of Messiah controls us and that we received a mandate from God to serve and to love everyone, even if it means serving a person who would never believe the same as us. Of course, if people ask us about our faith, we gladly answer. We don't hide a thing. We're more than happy to talk about our Messiah, humanity's cure," as she puts it. But the Leh Havah organization, which mainly fights assimilation here in the land, has declared us missionaries who deserve to die. Well, you heard that right. You know, if you remember, the scripture speaks about the time will come they think they do God a service by killing you, right? Well, she goes on to write, "A few days ago they came during opening hours and the staff, others asked them to leave, telling them, 'We have 3 children here.' But they didn't care. They left for a while and returned throwing stones and bricks at us without caring who would get hurt." She goes on to write here, "The former Orthodox or little children that were inside the house, a very large brick flew right by Hallel's head and could have seriously hurt or killed her. But they just didn't seem to care whatsoever. Leh Havah returned the next day when the living room was empty, the door was open, and so they entered and trashed the place, throwing glass bottles outside, and they returned again and threw a heavy rock on the front door's glass and smashed it. But anyway, the saddest thing is that most of them who are acting like terrorists are poor teenagers who've been brainwashed to think that they're doing God's work by physically harming us. The leader of Leh Havah is Benzion Gopstein. First, according to what Yeshua taught us, please pray for them. Pray for those who persecute us, that God will rebuke them for what they do and take them out of this hatred captivity they're locked in. Second, pray for us for divine protection, as we really love serving these people and we do not want anyone to get hurt. Thank you very much for standing with us in Jerusalem, Yariv and family." That was the post that was placed by our good friend, as I said, Sister Carolyn Hyde there on Facebook in Israel. Now, we have posted this same article over on our Facebook page, Israeli News Live, so that you can also respond to Carolyn, let them know you're praying for them, that you care about them. But this is the very issue that we're constantly trying to point out by this extremist faction that is in Israel. Not only do they come against your Jewish brothers and sisters that believe in Yeshua in Israel, but they're also, some of these same groups are the ones that promote the Noahide laws that would end up calling for the beheading, or it would be, but it does call for the beheading of Christians once that power is actually given to them in full hands. So this is exactly what we're faced with when we're dealing with extremist Orthodox that are out there that are bent on these types of activities. Not only that, though, we've got other crazy things that are going on that we caught in the news as well today. This was a video that was posted, and it's a video of Mr. Bloomberg, who is running on the Democratic ticket for President of the United States. Doing very well, in fact, in the running. Not quite as well as Bernie Sanders, who is also promoting his Jewishness now. He's really getting into that swing. The Jerusalem Post pointed out Bernie Sanders releases new Proud to be Jewish video. And look, there's nothing wrong with being Jewish. There's many good Jewish people in the world today. But the problem is what we're dealing with is the extreme side out there that would like to see Christianity go by the wayside. In fact, would like to see Christians under these Noahide laws beheaded for violating one of the 7 Noahide laws. Well, just to kind of give you another crazy idea that's out there, Mr. Bloomberg, which, by the way, Hillary Clinton talking about being his running mate as vice president under him if he gets the nomination, has declared that those that are, once you get to a certain age, in the video he mentions the age of 95, giving an example. If a man comes into the hospital at 95 with prostate problems, send him home, let him die. He said they're about to bankrupt us with these types of fees that are out there. Well, listen for yourself. I know the audio is a little bit poor there, but listen to yourself what Mr. Bloomberg says to this group of Jewish men here that are listening to him there, Orthodox Jewish men there, and I assume in New York. Yeah, let's see if this thing will actually play.
Go and enjoy. And fix right away. If you're bleeding, they'll stop the bleeding. If you need an X-ray, you're going to have to wait. That's just... And all of these costs keep going up. Nobody wants to pay any more money. And at the rate we're going, healthcare is going to bankrupt us. So not only do we have a problem, it's going to bankrupt us. And we've got to sit here and say which things we're going to do and which things we're not. Nobody wants to do that. You know, if you show up with prostate cancer, and you're 95 years old, we should say, go and enjoy, have a nice meal, lead a long life. There's no cure, and you can't do anything. If you're a young person, we should do something about it. Society's not willing to do that yet. So we're going to bankrupt us, and we're not looking at what things they can.
So, if it's a young person and they got prostate cancer, we'll do something about it. But if it's an old person, tell them to go home and live a good life. What are we coming up with? I mean, if President Trump doesn't get elected, definitely there's no good side on the Democratic side either. I'm really beginning to wonder. In fact, I think it's probably I don't even want to say it. I don't want to say it. I think you can get the picture of what we're seeing here. And Bernie Sanders also, when he says he's proud to be Jewish, in my opinion, what's being played right here is Bernie Sanders is trying to also appeal to the evangelical voters out there that would probably, maybe there's some out there that may not want to be voting Republican, that he might sway them to his side because he sees that President Trump has done very good in supporting the Jewish nation, the state of Israel. So therefore now that card is being played as well. It's really strange, friends. By the way, also Iceland welcomes its first permanent Torah scroll. The Jerusalem Post reporting about that as well. They got their permanent Torah scroll. See, things like that, there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing that we're against is promoting and having the presidents of the United States, and it's not just Trump, it's been all these presidents since George H.W. Bush, signing every year. As some say, it's just some little 2% radical sect out there. Well, it's a lot more than 2%, but it just so happens to be that the ones that are pushing these Noahide laws are the ones that control the political powers of the world. This is why we have such concerns over that. By the way, Trump says he gives up on endless wars. Russia, China, and Iran move in to take over those places that we are starting to get back out of, which is kind of interesting. You know, Trump is going to be able to say, you know, he's kept his promises, he's pulling his troops out. But you know, the funny thing is, every time he talks about pulling troops out, he does for what, a week or so. They never really come home. They just only kind of scuttlebutt them or some other part of Syria or Iraq or Iran or whatever, or wherever it may be. Not really Iran, but you know, the whole point is we never really bring anybody home. It's only sounds good. I guess Afghanistan now. We're going to leave out of Afghanistan. Well, I guess maybe they've decided they don't need any more drug money to be able to run the wars over there. Or maybe they cut a deal with the Taliban. Maybe they're going to ship the drugs to America. I don't know. It's really strange things that are happening over there. Anyway, we are preparing for a wide range of operations in Gaza. Article that breaks out there. Good friend Rosa sent this to us. Netanyahu tells community leaders. And I thought that was kind of interesting because Netanyahu is now telling community leaders they're getting ready to plan that move in Gaza. But if you happen to have caught our video here on Patreon, we actually reported that on the 14th, 3 days before this here World Israel News reported it. We had already reported that exact same message there to the people there that were at our Patreon conference on the 14th, 3 days earlier. Not to mention we'd actually gotten the information long before that. So we already knew about what was coming up on Gaza. But it's not just going to be Gaza. It's also going to be Lebanon. So keep that in the back of your head as well. Israel is going to do a war on Lebanon. By the way, we also have a breaking story. If you haven't already caught it there on Fact News Network. We'll be airing that here tonight on Israeli News Live as well. Don't know which one's going to come up first, this one or that one as well. But we have some breaking footage there, not seen in Western media thus far. Going to be sharing that with those of you that watch Israeli News Live already on Fact News Network. So check it out over there, and you'll see that as well. I'm Stephen Benoon.